Hi guys, and thanks for watching. This is Courtney. Courtney and I are in the same life group, and so we kind of just have been developing a relationship over the last few months, and just getting to know one another, serving one another, seeing how we can support one another in our seasons. And so, as you know, we've been talking about acceptance this month, and Courtney is going to share a little bit about what acceptance looks like for her in this season of life.
Okay.
So Courtney is pregnant. How far along are you?
I am 6 months.
Courtney is 6 months, and you are not married, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So first, I want to know, what does acceptance look like to you?
So acceptance, I guess acceptance to me, I guess looks like just having knowledge of it, accepting it wholeheartedly in my mind, knowing that even in the flaw, if it's good or bad, that it's me and it's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that flaw, God loves me in that acceptance.
Yeah.
So that's what acceptance means.
Okay. So what has that transition looked like for you? Well, I guess you can talk a little bit about how it started, like when you first found out you were pregnant, and then the transition to how you are now and how you've actually come to accept it and love your child and things like that.
Right. Okay. So when I first became pregnant, there was not an acceptance. So I was. I found out, and I was, no, this is not real. I didn't want to accept it. I went through a phase of depression where it was just like, I can't believe I'm pregnant. And it wasn't for me the thing of society where you're 28 years old, you should already had a baby, or you should be having kids. The acceptance for me was I wasn't married. And I grew up in a home where my parents are still together. They're still married. And they've had kids and they were married. And it's just been us. And so I came from a culture in an environment where marriage and kids, and if you had kids, it was out of wedlock and it was against God and everything like that. So in my mind, the acceptance for me was I went against God and the things that I was going through, not the acceptance of society where they say, oh, you're okay because you're 28 years old. And so I went through a depression state where I was just like, okay, I can't believe I'm having a baby this late, and not only just this late, but like
Wait, are you saying 28 is late?
Yes. Well, 28 to me is late because I was not going to have kids.
Okay.
What I'm saying is I was going to be the aunt that you just bring the kids to and then I bring them back to you. So 28 was like, I was like, okay, listen, I'm done. I mean, I'm not having none. It's okay. It's cool. So in that, I was just like, okay, well, when I found out that I was pregnant, I went through a depression where I was like, I can't believe I'm pregnant. And then it got to a point where I had to seek God. I had to say it out loud to my community, say it out loud to people that actually saw my face when I actually told them I was pregnant. It took me a while. Like, I didn't even want to tell people because I didn't want them to say congratulations.
Yeah.
This is my parents' first grandchild, so they are excited, and I didn't want to answer their calls because I knew they were going to be excited, but I wasn't, and I wasn't in a place and space to accept it yet. It wasn't until further along that I'm now starting to say, okay, and I got a name, and I know it's a girl, and I'm like, okay, and I hear the heartbeat, and I'm like, okay, this is real. So. And I'm not accepting it in a sense where I'm like, okay, God, I'm accepting that this is a child. I'm accepting the responsibility. That's what in my mind. In my mind, I'm like, this is another life that didn't ask to be here, so I need to do what I need to do. Not so much, okay, God, I'm accepting that you gave me this blessing. And it's still going to take me some time. It's going to take me some transition to just be like, okay, God, I accept that this is a blessing. I accept. And I have to pray on it every day because that's something I need to accept in that way.
Do you feel like the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in terms of you saying, thank you, God, for this blessing, what do you think it takes to get to that point, to accepting that?
To me, it's trusting God. Trusting in God, and not only that, knowing that even in this thing that I've done out of wedlock, that God still loves me. That God still blessed me, because some people can't have kids. And so for me to be able to carry a child, that's a blessing.
Right.
So I have to look at it as that, not look at it as, okay, yeah, you've made a mistake. Of course, you're going to have conviction. Mm-hmm. So then that's good that you have the conviction, that you feel that way, because you're convicted in a way that God wants you to know that you've done this. Yeah. But also you want to know that God still loves you even in this mistake. Mm-hmm. So that's basically where I feel like I'm going to need to be. Mm-hmm. And that's just going to take trusting God, praying, seeking His face daily, and praying for my child. Because even with me praying for my child, God's going to bless me in that. You get what I'm saying? Like, give me a heart to love her, mm-hmm. and give me a heart to accept it, because I start praying for her. And I have been praying for her. So it's getting better as of I'm getting excited more and more each day as I continue to keep trusting God about it.
So from where you are to where you want to be, what do you think that you're most fearful of accepting in terms of getting to that point of saying thank you, God, for this blessing?
What am I fearful of? I guess I'm fearful of the selfishness of having to take care of somebody else and not being by myself anymore. Mm-hmm. That's the fear of having to. I'm going to have a little human with me all the time now for the rest of my life. I will not go without being just who I am. Yeah. So I will. That's the fear, because the things that I used to control, I can't. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. And that was a fear with me being pregnant, because the first trimester I was really sick. Mm-hmm. So I was that also made me depressed, because things were happening to my body that I couldn't explain, and I couldn't take anything like I would normally take. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're a certain age, I'm 28, so I know what I need to take for my face if it breaks out. I know what to take for my, if I'm doing something with my hair, or if I'm sick, I know what it is, because I've dealt with that for 28 years. Mm-hmm. But when you're pregnant, your body does a whole nother thing. So you're having to adjust to a whole nother life. Like, you gotta adjust to sickness, and I can't take this, or I got a headache. You can only take this. I don't like this. This doesn't usually work for me in regular, so how is it working for me now that I'm pregnant? You know what I mean? So you have to change your whole life. So that equivalates to already having to change your life already. The baby's sacrifice, and the baby's not even here yet. Right. So you got right. So so you think about it, you're like, the baby's not even here yet. I've already. For my birthday, I was in the hospital because I was dehydrated. So I've already sacrificed. No more birth. That was my last birthday by myself. And so the selfishness is real. It's real. I've been by myself for 28 years. I don't know nothing else. So now I have to figure out how that works with another human. And so that is where the fear comes. And I know people say all the time, you can make it work, you can make it happen. And I've seen a lot of people do it. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's my struggle. Mm-hmm. That's where I am in my pregnancy. That's where I am in my acceptance. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah.
What I hear you saying is a lot of obedience.
Right.
You have to be obedient. God is telling you, you may not want this gift, but you got it.
Right.
You may not want to pray for this child. You may not want to name this child. You may not want to love this child. Mm-hmm. But if you just trust me and walk in obedience, I'll get you to that point of where I know you can get in terms of loving her and caring for her, providing for her.
Right.
Not out of obligation, but out of genuine love and care for the fact that you have a new life and a new being that you're responsible for.
Right. And then not only that, I just want to be able to be not mad at her. Mm-hmm. So when she comes, I want to love her.
That's good.
When she comes out, mm-hmm. I don't want them to throw the baby on top of me, and I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. Yeah. I'm trying to work my heart to where it's like, I love you now. Mm-hmm. Because not only that people say that the baby can feel your emotions. I don't want you to feel that. I just like you from the very beginning. Even though I did have those emotions, I did have those feelings in the very beginning. But I don't want it to where she comes out and I don't even want to be bothered with her.
Yeah. Like you said in the beginning, she didn't ask for this.
Right. She didn't ask to be born. So what? This is not her choice. This is simply a choice that I made. And I'm not. And then I used to say it was a mistake. Some people say it's a mistake. I don't see it as a mistake because I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So it was a choice that I chose to make. So it's not her fault at all. Yeah. But I have to be able to be okay with that and say this was the choice I made. And even though I made that choice, I love you in it. And so when she's born, I want her to be able to be in love. You know, that's one of my prayers, that she's in love, that I give her back to God, and that everything she does is centered around God. So, yeah.
Another thing I heard you kind of touch on was the unity and the oneness that you get in a home. So like when you're built up, you have that stability and that foundation to go back to. So for example, you talked about how your parents are still together, and the fact that you weren't married was a little frustrating for you, and you were having a child out of wedlock. What does that look like? How have you come to terms with accepting the fact that Harper's father may or may not be in the picture?
I was talking to my community about that recently, because I haven't come to terms with that, because it's like I grew up with a dad all my life. I don't know that. Yeah. I don't know that life. I'm praying that he has her, that he comes around and that he is in her life. He's showing interest right now, and hopefully he will continue to be in her life when she's born, and so she has those moments. But my community also helped me walk through that, because they helped me to ask questions and say, hey, even though you're not together, when she asks questions, be honest. Be honest with why mommy and daddy aren't together. Right. Be honest with the questions of, because you don't want her to go and seek it anywhere else. Right. You don't want her to seek except, because that's why I don't know that. I don't know that because I didn't seek it from anything else, because I had daddy there. You don't want her to seek it from anything else because daddy wasn't there. Right. You get what I'm saying? And that's an issue that goes around in women, where they were seeking it from something else because daddy wasn't there. You know what I mean? They didn't have that male figure in the life. So even if he's not there, there's community and there's men. My father, I have 2 brothers. And I have other people in my life that pour into me, spiritual covering that can help her in those ways of not having a father if he's not around. But I still haven't accepted that yet. I'm praying on it every day, constantly. But that's the question I ask my community too, because I was just like, I don't know what that conversation will be like. I know I can be honest with her, but I don't know what that conversation is to say. I mean, it's a father-daughter dance, and I don't have a dad. You know, situations, I think ahead sometimes. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know what that is, because I've had that. So what do I tell her? Or when she sees me with my dad and she doesn't have that, what do I tell her? You know what I mean? And of course, I don't tell her the truth, but emotionally, you know, you feel for them. Right. Because if I've had it, I want you to have the same thing I've had. Of course, right. As a parent, you want to give your child the greatest thing that you've had or you haven't had. And so if I've had that and I know the experience of how great it is, I want to give you that too. And I can't control that. That's something I can't control. So, yeah. So that's a fear. That's something that you have to work through, because that's something you can't control as well.
What is some advice you would give to someone that is either in a similar situation as you physically, as in like they're pregnant out of wedlock and they are regretting pregnancy, or someone that is where you are spiritually, mentally, where they're going through depression, or they're going through maybe not necessarily accepting what God says is a blessing in their life? How would you kind of help them through that?
First off, have community. First off, be able to be honest and have community. Yeah. Because my community, I went to that one person and I said, hey, I'm not happy. I'm pregnant and I'm depressed, or I'm pregnant and I'm not happy about it. And they met me where I was. Having people around you that meet you where you are and say, okay, so tell me why. And we talked about it, and talking about it and being honest. They didn't try to push scripture and try to push God. They just told me who God was, and that God still where I was. They accepted me where I was, and just told me that God still loved me in the midst of that, and that I just need to be praying continuously, and that they're going to continue to pray for me. And it was never a push. You know, sometimes like we get a push where we want to push scripture on people. We want to push those things, but they met me right where I was. Not only that, to be honest with themselves, and don't have a problem with crying out to God or being honest with God. You know, like sometimes we don't want to talk to God and we want to tell him how we really feel.
Yeah.
And I was really honest. I told God, I said, listen, I don't want this. I really don't.
But I think that's the beauty of it, because when we're able to say, God, hey, I don't want this. You're giving me this as a gift and I don't want it.
Right.
He sees that and he's able to correct your heart.
Right. Because he's just like, hey, you're honest. I'm going to meet you. Because he meets you wherever you are. But not only that, he gives you people. Because sometimes you're like, God, I don't want this. And then you get to a place with God and you're like, well, you're not here. I'm talking to you and I'm kind of getting you, but I'm not right now. I need something. So, and he'll bring people around to say, hey, I love you in the midst of this, or I'm meeting you where you are in this. Not only that, you just have to be really honest about how you feel, and then after that, working through it. So actually getting up and working through it. I literally could not do this without God. I could say that I could never do any of this without God, because there was a point where I was so depressed about being pregnant and sick that I didn't want to get up out the bed. And it was only God who got me up out the bed. The strength. I would cry sometimes because I would just be like, I have no strength. This is all you. Because I don't know where this strength is coming from, because I don't have it. I've never seen myself in that way before. I've always been the strength for other people. I've always been the encourager for other people. I've always been there to help other people. But at that moment, this was a place where I couldn't even do that for anybody anymore. I couldn't even be that for myself.
And it was a physical and mental.
Physical and mental. It was physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It was all of that. Because I didn't even want to get up and pray. I didn't even want to get up and read my Bible, because this had took so much of a toll on me with the sickness, on top of not being able to control what was going on top of me feeling guilt for what's going on top of all of that going on in my life. So I was just like, okay, it's a lot. And I felt like I didn't want to tell anybody, because people were telling me congratulations, but then I didn't want to keep unloading on my community, because I've already told them how I really felt. And also I just didn't want to be in a place where I wanted to be happy. I wanted to sit in that moment, because usually I'm good at popping up and just saying, okay, I feel some type of way, let me say it, and then let's move on to the next thing, because I can't stay down.
Right.
Somebody needs me, or something needs me. But in this, I couldn't.
But you had to be still in order for God to work on you.
Right, because otherwise because he had to it had me down so much that he had to actually literally meet me where I was. Yeah. I could not. Like, I couldn't pop my Bible open. I didn't want to. I didn't want to pop my Bible open. I didn't want to get on my knees and pray. Because I knew he was going to try to talk to me in such a way that encouraged me. And I didn't want encouragement. I wanted to sit in that. I couldn't sit in that. I wanted to sit in that moment for that moment.
And you were still going to church at that time.
Right. Listen, I was still going to church and serving.
Mm-hmm. So you were pouring into other people's lives.
Right. And depressed. Because I got to get up and keep moving.
But that just shows you how he was giving you what you needed to say to other people.
Right.
And you needed to go back to him to get what you needed for yourself.
Right. Because I didn't know. I don't know. Like, I can't even remember how I went through those days and still had strength. And still had strength to encourage other kids. Still had strength to encourage other people. Yeah. Love on other people. And be just around people in that moment when I found out. Because I was just like, what? No, I'm not doing this. But I was there. I didn't miss a Sunday, didn't miss a Wednesday, didn't miss a Thursday. I was at church faithfully. Yeah. And I felt like that was the only, I guess I feel like I had to. In that moment, in those things, I had to get up and just go. And sometimes I didn't want to go, but if it wasn't like for community calling and saying, hey, you coming? Yeah. Sometimes I would get up and be like, okay, well, let me go.
That accountability.
Right. This accountability is so real. If people don't understand how real accountability is, it is so real and it's so needed. Yeah. Because I didn't know about accountability and community. I always desired it, but I never knew how vital it was to life until I moved here in Dallas and got at one. I had it at like my other church, but I didn't know what that was called. But I really, really understood it once I got to one and got in like life groups, and then this other community, and then my inner circle. My inner circle is real about that accountability. Those deep questions, they get in your business for real. I'm serious. They get in your business, but I love it because I desire it. I desired it, and not only that, I need it. I need you to check me. I need you to be all up in my business because I promise you, if I had that community 3 months before I found out I was pregnant, I would not be pregnant. That's the whole other thing. I tell them that all the time. I tell that to people all the time. When I ask them questions about accountability, I ask them, in your singleness, how are you struggling? And do you need accountability? Because if I'd have just had in February, if my community, they were trying to be there, but I wasn't letting them in. If I'd have gave them the chance to actually be honest and try to work that community then, instead of where I was in May and April, I wouldn't be pregnant because I'd have had accountability. It wouldn't even be no questions. They'd have asked me what's going on and why you're doing this, and what are you going to take the steps to get out of that? So I'd have rethought and redone and restepped. You get what I'm saying? Because that's what started happening, and then I was like, okay, well, God don't make no mistakes. He does not. So I took it as that, but I'm just saying how vital community and accountability is, because if it was there those prior 2-3 months, I wouldn't be pregnant.
It's amazing how you can look back and learn from those mistakes,
right?
And, implement those moving forward,
right? Because I'm stuck now. I'm not playing. I'm not stuck. But what I'm saying is, I'll be chilling for the rest of my life. Yes, for the rest of my life. So I'm just like, okay, and I'm trying to accept that. See, mommy is so after you accept words like that, mommy, and like mommy, or baby, or you about to have a kid. Or I call it a little human because I be like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm still
especially coming from someone who didn't want to have kids.
Right. So it's a lot for me.
Yeah.
Because my parents, like people back at home, and my parents are like, listen, I never thought you was gonna give us one. And I was honest, because I tell people all the time. I just tell people all the time, I love kids, but I don't want none. Right.
And that's understandable.
Because I just didn't. I loved on other people's kids, and that was good enough for me.
Yeah.
And I like to bring them home, and that be done. Now I got one permanently, so it's a life change, but I'm accepting it day by day by day, and it's only by the grace of God and my community. And people loving me around me, and then me just trusting in God, because if He gave me the blessing, I'm just praying that she be everything He called her to be. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Because because at the end of the day, that's what I want to instill in her. Because my parents, my grandparents, they instilled that in me. Yeah. My mom was just like, when you was born, all you knew was the Bible, because that's all I read to you in the womb. So I want her to go back to that, and not only that, I want the community that I have around her and her godparents and people like that, where they're pouring into her each and every day, and she gets the honesty. You know what I mean? Because I want her to be transparent. I want to be transparent and honest as possible as a parent, so they don't have anger and all that, built
Trust
up.
issues.
Yes, and of course they're gonna go through life, and they're gonna make mistakes, and they're gonna have those things, but I want them to accept themselves of who they are and who God called them to be. You know what I mean?
So this is the last thing I'll talk about, but I think it was really interesting how you mentioned saying it out loud.
Right.
And I can speak to this specifically because when I did my video on acceptance, there were things that I thought like, oh, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that. And then God was like, that's not what I want you to say.
Right.
I want you to say this because somebody else is going to get healing from this. But not only are they going to get healing, but you're going to get healing because you're going to acknowledge and admit where you're struggling and where you need to go. And so actually saying it out loud helps you realize, like, hey, I'm struggling in this area. Right. But then it also helps God to see she acknowledges and understands where she is and knows what she needs to do to get to where I want her to be.
Right. And that wasn't until I got around certain people in my community where they was just like, I got to say this out loud, because if I say it out loud, then I'm acknowledging. And I was like, girl, that's good. Like, for real, like, really, if I need to, I'm going to have to say this out loud for me to acknowledge. And so, and I took it in, and I learned that if saying it out loud, saying, okay, hey, I don't like this, or hey, God, I'm not feeling this type of way, or being honest with myself to say, hey, this is where I'm struggling.
Right.
And this is all new to me because, of course, I would talk about how I feel, but I wouldn't talk about how I feel to myself or to God and say, "Hey, I'm struggling," or "Hey, this is how I feel." So when I heard that and when I heard how it was impacting their lives and saw how it was impacting their lives, I was like, well, let me try it. Let me see about saying this out loud. And that's what happened. I would say it out loud. I would be like, okay, God, I'm not feeling this, or hey, I'm not whatever. And he would meet me where I was, and I could trust him in that because he would. Because when I said, okay, I'm in Texas, and Lord, I don't know how I'm gonna make it here because I'm not originally from here. I have no family here.
Right.
So I'm gonna let you know I'm fearful. I want to move back home. So if you want me to stay here, you're gonna provide a way. I'm just being honest. I am fearful. I'm scared. And he met me where I was. He showed me what he could do, and I'm still here. And he's made a way and he's provided for me to be able to stay here. So it really does help saying it out loud and being honest with yourself and being honest with your surroundings because it changes not only does it change the environment, but it changes who you are on the inside because you're honest with God and he loves your obedience to say, hey, I'm not feeling this way, but I'm going to trust you anyway. And
he loves that you trust him enough to be honest.
Right. And it's just so amazing how he meets you wherever you are. It don't matter where you are, wherever you are. And that's good. But yeah, so yeah, that's what helped. That's what saying out loud helped for me in that acceptance, and it still helps because I still have to say things out loud. So like you saying, "Mommy," I have to sometimes say that to myself around the house because I have to accept that that's going to be my role. Right? You get what I'm saying? I have to accept that. So sometimes I have to walk around the house and say, "Mommy," or I have to say her name around the house because I have to accept that this is happening. That this is real, and and even in that, it still sometimes isn't real, I guess, and it won't be real until she gets here. But sometimes I still feel like in my mind I can't go without saying it because if I do, I'm going to get in a comfortable place, and I don't want to get into a comfortable place where I get upset again. You know what I'm saying? You get upset, you be like, okay, you know what I mean, and get complacent, I guess, about it. So.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you about your acceptance journey.
You're welcome.
If you guys have any questions, any comments, feel free to share them with us. We'd love to hear back from you guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye, y'all.